Welcome to the Nottingham Business School Business Leaders Podcast, where business leaders tell their stories and share their insights. All our guests have a personal connection with Nottingham Business School. So listen, learn, enjoy and share.
So welcome to a special episode of the Nottingham Business School Business Leaders Podcast with me, Mike Sassy. So Chris Evans, Colin Collier and Neil Gibson are graduate civil engineers who 40 years ago graduated from Nottingham Trent together. They all went on to enjoy very successful leadership careers, one in international IT, two in construction, building bridges, airports, railways and power stations all over the world. As firm friends, they and a number of other colleagues from their class of 84 have stayed in touch for 4 decades. They are living, breathing examples of the importance for leaders and would-be leaders of maintaining a professional network, which is why we have invited them to join us here on the Nottingham Business School's Business Leaders Podcast to share their leadership insights. Gentlemen, you're very welcome back to Nottingham Trent.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, have you noticed any changes? Chris?
Yeah, I think it's great to be back in Nottingham again. You know, I've been back a couple of times because my son came to Trent as well. But yeah, there's definitely changes, but it's very, very familiar, even though it's 40 years ago.
Neil?
Yeah, I think just walking around this department, you just see the amount of RT.
Where we're sitting now, just clarify the point, we're sitting in CBJ, the School of Journalism.
We sort of joke when we did our civil engineering degrees, we had a module of computer science, and you'd sit at a little clattery keyboard and you'd press print, and you used to have to go and collect your printout the next day from the printing station.
Yeah.
So things have certainly changed.
The next day,
all for the better. Yes, the next day.
Any changes for you, Colin?
Trams.
Trams, yes.
No cars and trams. It's massively different. It's a lovely place.
Oh, good. Glad to hear it. So, let me go through you in turn. So, Chris, now, you've worked on airport bridges in Hong Kong, nuclear power plants in Suffolk, railway tunnels, viaducts. You're now an MD at engineering company Volker Fitzpatrick. So what do you know now that you wished you'd known 40 years ago as you left NTU?
That's a great question, Mike. I mean, a couple of things spring to mind immediately. I think the first one is how to make money. You know, I think being in business, you know, clearly safety is number one for us, you know, the health and safety of all the people who work on our projects. But after that, making money, it's something which I think you only really learn over time. Because let's face it, in business, if you don't make a little bit of money, you know, you're not going to be in business very long. I think the second thing, which, you know, you sometimes forget about, is the importance of presenting. Every time you're in a meeting, whenever you interject, you're presenting. You know, when you meet a subcontractor and brief him, you're presenting. Formal presentations, and I don't think, you know, reflecting back on being at university, I appreciated the importance of that as a real skill that helps you in business.
Just thinking, Chris, we didn't get anything, did we? I don't remember standing up and presenting once.
I don't recall we did. No, and it's a basic skill, isn't it?
So this is, you just left your own devices?
Yeah, I don't recall any presentation skills courses at university, but don't get me wrong, we did, 27 hours a week of very intense technical training, so we didn't have a lot of time to learn the softer skills.
Neil, you've also worked on nuclear power stations, most recently with Rolls-Royce. Lots of big railway projects. I'm sure we'll come to those. But I noticed that you were design manager on the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff. What do you know now that you wish you'd known?
I think we left. We left with we graduated with a lot of skills. So we'd go into the business and use those skills. What I don't think I thought about much at the time was the importance of innovation and change. So you go to work and you do things the way you were taught to do them, and you'd carry on do them the way you were taught to do them, but you didn't think about what's a better way to do them. Right. So I think sort of the importance of innovation, and for our industry, sort of off-site manufacturing, because of the sort of declining workforce and the importance of health and safety.
Sure. Now, Colin, you're unusual in that you graduated as a civil engineer, but you quickly moved out of that into nascent IT. I saw IT very early in the 1980s. You founded your own company, then you moved into marketing, subsequently financial services. At one point, you were director of a company printing the German banknotes. So this podcast is all about maintaining and building your business network. How has the business network that started for you at NTU helped you through your career?
I would say it's a bit like pensions. It's never too early to start. I'd say everybody right now just worked LinkedIn. Get on LinkedIn and link into everybody. There's one of my buddies up here. His son came in to see. I used to work at one of the big four. And he came in for a day's work experience. So I put him in the office and got him a half an hour with the office senior leader and said, just make sure before you finish that conversation, you ask, is it okay to link in with you? She'll link in with you, and you've suddenly got access to 1,000 really high-powered people. And he didn't actually do it. He's done well since then. But it's a great opportunity. So just link in with people, have a cup of coffee, try and then leverage their networks, because that's where your next job's going to come from. It's fundamental to moving on in business life, I think.
And it's never too early to start.
Absolutely.
Okay, good stuff. So, looking back at your time at NTU, I'll come to you again, Chris, first. What were the most valuable things that you think you learned?
I think that basic technical grounding is invaluable. You know, while now in my position, rarely do I actually use the technical skills that I learned when I was at Trent.
Is that right?
Yeah, day to day.
Because everything's moved on.
I think it's all about people. It's all about client relationships. It's about the people you manage and lead. But that technical background you've got in your gut, when you visit a project and you see what's going on, you've just got a feeling in your gut whether things that people are telling you are accurate and correct. And it's all that technical background that just allows you to sniff out where the problems are and where you need to concentrate your efforts as a leader.
Okay, so it was the building of your intuition, as it were.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what it is. It's just a feeling in your gut. When you go on a project, within a minute or two, you've sussed out, you know, is this project going well? Where might the problems be? Is it technical? Is it people? Is it client relationships? Is it money? Is it health and safety? It just gives you a really good basic grounding for where to concentrate your efforts.
Colin?
It is just really interesting. We had a coffee before we came in here today. We were talking about the effect of COVID and lockdown, and people coming through now. And I think you said earlier on, right, there's a fundamental difference between the intake after COVID and before COVID. And this remote working is exactly that, it's remote. So people aren't learning those skills. So the things that Chris was just talking about, that intuition, the dealing with people, the role model in the office, what I should or shouldn't be doing, you can't learn that on Teams, especially if the other person hasn't got their camera switched on. How are you going to learn that? So it's almost like a social experiment now. What's going to happen in 10 years' time when people lack that experience of the experience? It's going to be great looking back in 10 years' time to see how this works out.
Great, but perhaps daunting.
It's a social experiment.
Yeah. I've done 32 of these podcasts, and I think perhaps in different ways, but every single one of the people I've spoken to has talked about the importance of EQ. Every bit as important as IQ, they say. You find that yourself, Neil?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking earlier. I mean, the TQ bit is the bit that we probably weren't taught at university. That you just develop that over time, but it's so important, especially in this day and age where, you know, you want to encourage people to come to your business. You want to encourage people to stay in the business, and if you haven't got those skills, people will leave. Yeah. So you need to have that.
Can that be taught, Colin? Can it be taught?
It's quite interesting. So when we were 40 years ago, we were here. We were doing, as Chris said, the technical stuff. You're forming that base of the pyramid upon which you're going to build later on. Now, and then you go through, and then if you think about when you're at the gym or the football club or wherever you are in life, you'll see leaders. And every single person in this room and also in life, they'll think, I know some good leaders, I know some not so good leaders. And they just jump off the page, whether it's Marino or Klopp, whether it's Trump or Biden, whether it's Boris or Starmer. There's a whole bunch of different approaches to leadership. When the key thing is, I think, for the EQ part, there's lots been written about it, it's basically, can you set a vision and can you get everybody on the bus? Are we going in the same direction? Do you want to get there? That's what leadership is versus technical.
But surely it's a little bit easier for all of us of a certain age sitting here because we've developed it over decades. But for a business person in their early or mid 20s, can they develop it quickly so that they're not sitting back at 40 odds thinking, oh Lord, I wish I'd known that then?
I think for me, Mike, that for me is something I try to do myself. Look at people who are good at it, but also look at people who are not so good. And I think you learn from people who show a great example, but equally people who don't show a great example. And it's both. I mean, I reflect, you asked about EQ. I reflect on one of my biggest successes was leading the Blackfriars Station redevelopment in central London. £500 million project. We had about 1,200 people on site, constructing, plus a white collar staff of about 300. But I spent a lot of my time with stakeholders because they didn't really want us there. The travelling public didn't want us there. So you're trying to construct something.
Just so define that, sorry, just for people who don't know. Why did they not want you there?
Well, it was a live railway station which we were ripping apart and reconstructing, keeping the mainline railway live and the London Underground live. We were building the bridge across the River Thames, so we were affecting traffic in the river.
Right.
We were affecting the local road network. Nobody wants people to build and disrupt them. So you're trying to win stakeholders over, the local authorities, Southwark Council, the City of London, the Port of London Authority. So it's all about gaining rapport with these people, explaining why there's a bigger picture in terms of the benefit you'll bring when the project's finished. So please help us out and we'll minimise the disruption to you while we're constructing. But it's winning those people over and influencing them, nothing to do with technical skills, all about understanding people, winning them over, gaining their respect, and getting them on board with your success.
So years of tact and diplomacy.
That's exactly what it's all about, tact and diplomacy. And I think you can be taught it, but a lot of it is sort of inbuilt in you, watching other people that you've seen do a great job and mirroring them.
Okay.
It's also really high profile right now. We've just come off, when this is being recorded, just off the Tory conference. And yesterday, a pretty large statement was made about the HS2, and the question is, how was that handled in the marketplace? How is it being communicated to people? Do people feel that's good? So it's taking the stakeholders with us. And Chris was telling us an interesting story about HS2, whether you have it or don't. You were telling us a story about HS1, Chris.
Yeah, I think it was interesting that it was on the radio, the opinion of quite a very sensible industry leader in terms of Rob Holden, who led High Speed 1. And he was saying, in his view, that it's over-spec'd, and that's one of the reasons why it's overpriced. It's proven to be more expensive than it was expected.
I heard that interview because he was the man who brought HS1 in under budget.
He did,
and on time. And he said they made two mistakes. The first one was telling everybody how much money they had to spend to start with, and then he was polite. But the interviewer said, "And did they not pick the phone up to you?" And he said, "No, that was the second mistake."
He was underqualified, didn't he? But the key one was, as you said, everybody when HS1, which is the London to Folkestone connection or Ashbourne, they said that they didn't want it going back to the bridge, and afterwards, guess what? Why didn't you do it? And you said about the M25. Everybody in Swansea, when you were doing it, it's an eyesore, it's never going to get used. And after the event, why is it built so narrow? Why didn't you put some more lanes there? So in years to come, we'll look back and was this a successful decision or not? I mean, time will tell.
Sure. I'm going to come to you, Neil, because you were design manager on the Millennium Stadium. Leadership challenges there?
Yeah, there was. I mean, the Millennium Stadium was not a particularly good job for the company I worked for.
So just to clarify, sorry, I do apologise. I should have said Cardiff, city centre Cardiff,
yeah,
replacing the old rugby stadium.
It's the old Cardiff Farms Park, if you remember. So it's a city centre project. And the problem that our business had was the managing director was Welsh and he was a rugby fanatic. So we were bidding this project, and this guy absolutely wanted to win this project, whatever. So he kept on. I think there was two bidders in the end, which were sort of batting off each other, and we kept on and on reducing our price, and we won it, and we built it, and we lost an absolute fortune, and that was purely because the managing director of Langshill Engineering was Welsh rugby fan and wanted it.
Is that right? And so could it be justified on the basis of the fact that it was such a flagship project, being associated with it was worth a fortune?
The amount of money we lost, it wasn't worth that.
It wasn't worth it, okay.
I guess anything in civils, it's low margin, isn't it? It's a large
Extremely
amount
low
of
margin.
money, whereas there
and
are
high
other
risk.
Yeah, and there are other people now in different sectors that will be much, much higher margin. And at the end of the day, you make it, as you said earlier on, Chris, it's a commercial decision, gut and science.
But great to work on the project, though?
Yeah, fantastic, yeah.
And
I mean, it was built, if you remember, for the 1999 Rugby World Cup. And I mean, I actually left the project to go and work in Dubai about, I think it's in the February of '99, and I walked away thinking it wouldn't be finished because it was severely behind programme. And fair play to the team, they delivered it, and the Rugby World Cup was held there, which you might remember.
Yes. I was working next door at the time. Coming to you, Chris. Small bridge in Hong Kong.
Yeah, no, I think that on reflection, great experience. I think I decided.
So explain what the bridge was.
So I worked on what was called part of the Airport Core programme. So it was a 430-metre cable-stayed bridge that led to the new airport that was built at the time, called Chetlap Kok.
Uh-huh.
And I went from UK. I've been working on Second Severn Crossing, big cable-stayed bridge down in Bristol to Wales.
So how big was that? Because I used to travel that every day. So
that was about the same, 400-metre span cable-stayed bridge. Decided international experience would be, good fun plus good on the CV. So went over to Hong Kong, and reflection, culturally, I was working with Hong Kong Chinese people, with Japanese people. A real big shock culturally, because those people are completely different to the way we are in the UK.
Okay, so come on, explain that then.
Well, face, as we call it, is extremely important, and I've got very fond memories of a time when I got fairly emotional as a UK person. Sometimes we lose our temper, get excited, and sometimes that you can see that you get your own way a bit better because people listen to you because you now got emotional.
Of course, so these are all leadership skills, yes?
In the Japanese culture, what I found was getting emotional was just not the thing to do at all. I got emotional with a Japanese colleague who made a mistake on more than one occasion.
Right.
I did what I might do in UK, got emotional, got excited with him, but in the Japanese culture I'd lost control, and so as far as he was concerned, he lost all respect for me, and he literally would not talk to me for 9 months. I'd go in the morning, good morning Hashiguchi-san, which is Mr. in Japanese, and he would not acknowledge me. And a massive learning curve. The culture from UK, you can't take to a foreign country necessarily.
So, Colin, you have any experience of that?
I did cultural difference. My company I work for at the moment has a strong Indian bent to it, and something you learn is in Indian culture, they won't say no. So you could be talking, you'll have a culture, sometimes a language, whichever, anybody that's not English for the people in this room. If you're talking to somebody, there's a language element, but English is well spoken in India. But they'll by not saying no, you think you've agreed something, and the next morning what you agreed wasn't quite what the other person had in, and sometimes they just won't say no. And so what the way around that is to empower people you talk to. So it's really important. I won't always be right in this conversation. It's really important you call me out if you either don't understand it or you disagree, and then recap at the end of the conversation. Ask them to tell you what you've agreed.
Right.
A bit like in the army, like.
Yeah, I had similar experiences. I worked in Dubai for about 5.5 years, and the workforce there is predominantly Asian, and I had exactly the same thing. And it can have quite significant safety consequences. If you get the nod of the head, yes, I understand, and then they don't understand.
Right. Which brings me nicely to biggest leadership challenges any of you have had, perhaps regrets, mistakes.
I set up a company in '93, which is an IT company. Which I grew to £15 million and 100 people. So those were the good days. And then sector changes, there was a .com, but it's a long story basically. And the market changed, so I put it into administration. And you kind of went through the whole gambit. So a massive success, but a massive mistake in that the company isn't around, and kind of looking back on regrets. And it's the thing I tell my kids is kind of, it doesn't matter how busy you're working today or how good it is, take advantage of it. Try and leverage it, because you're in life, and especially these people coming through the business school or the university now, life is going to have twists and turns. It's not going to go to plan. I remember when I was there was a kind of a bit of bravado, but equally there was a great piece of me that was unsure about life was going to bring to me. And you're going to get some cul-de-sacs, it's going to be some good times and bad times, but it kind of just keep chugging away and it'll all work out in the end.
Big successes. What do you look back on and think, Lord, that was great? I'm going to hang my hat on that one and tell the grandkids.
I mean, I think as civil engineers, you look back at your best projects. And Chris mentioned Second Severn Crossing. I worked on the Second Severn Crossing as well. We worked together actually in the same team. We worked on marine works. So building a bridge across a channel with the second highest tidal range in the world was an immense challenge. So even though it was many years ago, 25 years ago, it's still my biggest. I feel it's my biggest achievement.
Great satisfaction to look back on.
Enormous satisfaction.
And you know, 40 years ago, you graduated from here. Is it the sort of thing that you were thinking, I've really got to get involved in something big? Or
I think when I graduated, I think I thought I'd like to have done. I never imagined that I would have done. I've been extremely fortunate that I've been involved in a lot of projects, the sort of projects that you read about in the news. I don't think I ever thought I'd do that. So very proud of that.
It's interesting you saying, I mean, construction is a wonderful place because you always leave a legacy. One of the things is kind of what could you do differently going forward is every opportunity you get in life, put your hand up. Wherever you work, put your hand up, take on new experiences and try and get yourself exposed with senior people. So as Neil said, if there's a great project that you want to get involved with and you know the top dog in the organisation is championing that, let's say he's the Welsh CEO as a rugby supporter, if you can get and ride on the coattails, I don't mean it's a success, you're going to get a better ride because you'll get noticed higher up in the organisation.
That's an important one, isn't it, Chris? Always try to say yes to every opportunity that presents itself.
Absolutely. You've got to look at those things as opportunities to learn and develop, haven't you? I mean, you asked about brilliant projects. I mentioned Blackfriars Station earlier. I just look on that with fantastic memories. It was 4 years of my life. It was bloody hard work. But again, one of the little things I remember is we used to do presentations to the workforce once every 3 months. We'd take them off site in batches of 250 people at the same time, and we'd present to them, let them know about the great successes we've had over the last 3 months, but some of the big technical challenges and organisational challenges that kind of come over the future 3 months. And you'd go on site the following day and the guys would see you, Chris Evans, project director, and the buzz it would give you that all these guys were now, briefed and knew what direction we were all going in as a great team, and it just gives you a massive buzz in terms of, leadership and etc.
Okay. Buzz. It's really interesting to use that word. It's another consistent word through this leadership, the buzz of leadership. So we're drawing to a close here now. So I'm going to actually ask each of you if you can give me one top tip for the would-be leaders and existing leaders in the Nottingham Business School. Who wants to go first?
Kind of along the lines of what I just said. Find out what your boss objectives are. Find out the objective of your boss. Once you understand what they are, you plug into those and you make sure you are seen to be helping deliver it, and then you can go on together. Because you might have your own plan of life and you might have your own appraisal which says this, but unless that aligns with what your boss wants, so whatever he or she is doing, that will help you move on.
Great
Yeah,
stuff.
I'd agree with that. One of a bit of advice someone gave me a long time ago is always try and do your boss's job. So try and do your line manager's job because he's never going to say no. If someone says to me, Neil, I could do that for you, fantastic, go away and do it. And that's a really good bit of advice.
Okay, Chris.
I think be willing to take a bit of risk. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there and just go for it. Every now and then you'll have a little bit of a knock and you might, fail, but generally you'll go for it and you'll succeed. You've just got to go for it.
Christopher, this has been a great conversation, a great leadership conversation. Chris, Neil, Colin, thanks very, very much for your time on the Business Leaders Podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode, then why not check out some of the others that are also available, including those with the Chair of the FA, Debbie Hewitt, broadcaster and entrepreneur David Lloyd, and the Vice-Chancellor of Nottingham Trent University, Professor Edward Pegg. The Nottingham Business School Business Leaders Podcast is produced for Nottingham Trent University by Celtic Tiger Productions. Your presenter was Mike Sassy and your producer was John Collins.